Welcome to today's video, Isaiah 41 verse 10 explained. Fear thou not, for I am with thee, be not dismayed, for I am thy God, I will strengthen thee, yea, I will help thee, yea, I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness. Isaiah 41 verse 10 comes from a chapter in the book of Isaiah where God is addressing his people, Israel, during a time of great fear and uncertainty. The Israelites were under threat from surrounding nations and felt the weight of their circumstances. But God, through the prophet Isaiah, reassures them of his unwavering presence and his powerful protection. This verse, spoken to a people who felt vulnerable and overwhelmed, reveals God's promises to his chosen people. It is important to remember that the Israelites were not just facing physical threats but also spiritual challenges. God's message is clear. Despite the external pressures, he is their protector and will never abandon them. Though this verse was originally directed to Israel, its truths resonate deeply for all believers today, as it speaks of God's character, his omnipresence, omnipotence, and eternal love. In Isaiah 41 verse 10, God begins by commanding, "Fear thou not." This is a direct call to reject fear, which often paralyzes us in moments of trial and hardship. God immediately follows this command with the reason why, "For I am with thee." Here, the assurance of God's presence is the antidote to fear. This means that no matter how dark or difficult the situation might seem, God's presence provides the comfort and strength we need to face it. Next, he says, "Be not dismayed." Dismay refers to feeling hopeless or overwhelmed by circumstances. God is asking us to resist falling into despair. He reinforces this by saying, "For I am thy God." This personal affirmation, "I am thy God," tells us that God is not a distant or indifferent deity. He is our personal God, involved in the very details of our lives, offering his steadfast support and care. God continues, "I will strengthen thee." This is a powerful promise. When we are weak, physically, emotionally, or spiritually, God is the one who imparts his strength. We don't have to rely solely on our own ability to endure, for he is ready to fortify us in our time of need. Then God says, "Yea, I will help thee." This help is not just any form of assistance, but divine help. It's a reminder that God's resources are limitless and that his help is always effective. His help goes beyond what we can do for ourselves, stepping in where human ability fails. Finally, the verse concludes with the words, "I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness." The right hand symbolizes authority and power in biblical terms. God promises to not only lift us up but to sustain us with his righteous power. The use of the term righteousness emphasizes that his help and support come from a place of perfect justice and love. God's righteousness ensures that his support is both morally perfect and utterly dependable. This verse reveals a deep truth about the character of God. He does not simply command us not to fear. He gives us the reason not to fear. The promise of his presence and his personal involvement in our lives is what drives out fear. God isn't asking us to face life's challenges alone. In fact, he is actively involved in every aspect of our struggle. Isaiah 41 verse 10 also speaks to the nature of our relationship with God. He is not a distant figure, but a close, caring God who identifies as our protector and provider. The verse is a reminder of God's sovereignty over all situations. Whether it's facing personal trials, uncertainty about the future, or global chaos, God is in control, and his righteousness guarantees that he will act for our good. Another key insight is that this verse emphasizes God's power over fear and anxiety. Fear is often a natural response to difficult circumstances, but God invites us to trust him, knowing that his strength, help, and righteousness are greater than any of our fears. Isaiah 41 verse 10 is a verse that can be applied to every believer's daily walk with God. First, it reminds us that fear is not from God. When we encounter fear, whether it's fear of failure, fear of the unknown, or fear of rejection, we can remind ourselves that God is with us. His presence should give us the courage to face whatever is ahead. When we feel dismayed or overwhelmed by life's circumstances, this verse calls us to refocus our hearts on the truth that God is our God. He is personal, he is close, and he is committed to helping us. Instead of letting despair take hold, we can lean into the promise that God's strength is made perfect in our weakness. This verse also teaches us to trust in God's help rather than rely solely on our own abilities. Often, we try to manage life's difficulties by ourselves, but God wants us to rely on His strength and assistance. In moments of difficulty, whether it's a challenging season at work, personal relationships, or health concerns, we can pray and trust that God will provide the strength we need. Lastly, the promise that God will uphold us with His righteous right hand means that we can have confidence in His justice and power. When things seem unfair or when we feel like the world is against us, we can trust that God's righteousness will prevail. His support isn't just for the moment, it is for eternity, as He upholds us through every trial. If you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing, liking, sharing, and leaving a comment. Your support helps us continue to spread the word. May God bless you and keep you, and may His presence fill you with peace as you walk in faith.